All right. Hi, everyone. It's July 14th, 2022. It's the Flux Dev Meeting. I'm hosting today from a cafe in Brooklyn, and Kingman's taking notes, and we have Paolo, Hida, Sanskar, and Sunny on the call. Here is link to the notes. We've got some agenda items on here already. I wonder, Paulo, if you would be interested or willing to take a quick look over the current GA and Dev focus board. I know you've been doing it a little recently. I don't want to make it so it's always you.
Well, so if anyone else wants to do, now is the time to say. Otherwise, I'll do it in 5, 4. Well, okay, I'll do it. So we'll share.
Okay, I was gonna say, are you in a place where you can share your screen?
I'll try now. Let's see.
Okay, and if not,
can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Oh, brilliant. All right, cool. So, yeah, in terms of actually board movements, I don't think there was much from last week. I think that there's definitely a lot of work happening on the background, especially around the Git consolidation. I think the PR from Sanskar is almost kind of merging. It's not here specific. Actually, it's related to this, and I think we have a. Can you guys see still my my new tab?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, let me just put this as GA there. Yeah, cool. Yeah, so there's definitely some improvements around, the Git consolidation. There is this issue here that we kind of managed to bring a fix, or to release candidate that fixes it, but I'll get into that in more detail later on the agenda. On top of that, there are some changes, especially around the testing front, that Sunny brought around the end-to-end with the Terraform modules and all, which is not really merged yet, but again, is roundabout going to GA.
Do we need more eyes on that, or is there anything that would help?
Yeah, we probably could create some breaking down issues, just kind of get them on the board. I'll pick that up on the things that are flying around and it's not on the board, so everyone has visibility. But yeah, on top of that, well, there was a lot of work on OCI as well, and yes, the commissioning of libgit2, which again, this is quite a few changes here and there. In parallel, we're making a release right now, just fixing some CVEs that are not really related to GA, but it's just housekeeping that we needed to do. We're also updating libgit to version 132 as part of that process. But yeah, it's not a kind of much detailed update, but from a GA perspective, I think that's one thing that I asked the last session. I think you were not around, Scott, was to actually have this extra item here in which we ask people if they have any PRs that are related to GA and they need us to prioritize the review, to just make sure that they add that on the agenda. So we make sure we do that as soon as the agenda, as soon as the meeting's over. So that is that from the GA perspective.
So there is one question I have.
Yeah.
It might be a short question, but I think it's a question for Hida about that list. One of those items was the rolling out the unified standards to the Helm controller. I know you've been working on that and you've got a lot on your plate, but I was just wondering, I don't know, Hida, last time we talked, it was really down to a one-person job. And I guess I was
still a
wondering.
one-person job. It's
Yeah,
still
yeah.
a one-person job, nothing changed.
Okay.
Yeah, there was some there was a PR related to that recently, but I think we covered that on the last meeting, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not as active or talkative, by the way, but I reinstalled my computer yesterday. And while I did set up a lot of things to actually do development work, the audio configuration is still, well, a Linux starter grade, let's say. So I'm joining from mobile. But anyway, a PR got merged. Monday, I think I merged it, which basically does the base layer of all the fundamental changes to the Helm controller. I then took a short side tour to finish some sub things because we have been contributing our first key sources back upstream to finalize that. And those last two PRs are now merged, and I'm working together with the subs maintainer to polish things before we actually do the 3.8.0 release of subs. Once that's done, or while I'm no longer busy finalizing that, I will get back to the next chunk of work for the Helm controller.
Awesome. It may not be work that other people can help with, but is there any, I don't know. Do you think every so often there are bits that you could use someone to just do kind of like, not necessarily legwork, but even just test out, or?
It's tested by the fact that it's unit tested, and anything that has been written till date isn't wired in such a way that the user can actually make use of it. It's just low-level packages that provide specific bits of functionality the controller is going to need. That's the next chunk is going to be wiring, actually adding events. And some of the other things like improving visibility, looking at, I don't know, edge case issues that may exist in the current observation model. But till date, there's nothing more than unit tests that actually say like, okay, this is working, but nothing a user can make use of.
Got it. Okay, thanks. I didn't want to belabor that. I was just curious. Thank you. Very exciting, and I think that's that and the image.
Yeah, image reflector controller. Sunny is working on that one. Do you have any update on that one, Sunny?
Nothing new. We merged the new registry package into image reflector, and the next version will have the new registry. And then we'll move it to some other repository. The registry package will go to the package repository. And I'm working on moving the end-to-end tests along with it to other repositories. So I need a new repository. We'll discuss it at the end. I have a point there for keeping all the Terraform configurations.
Yeah, I think we briefly mentioned that on the last session, but yeah, these would be so useful, like all the part about the end-to-end tests and all, because then we can use that across all the projects as well, just make sure that things are working properly against the specific cloud providers. So yeah, that is hard. Like hard work is a lot of things, but once it's there, we'll just reuse it. So really good job on that. Cool. I think this is it on the GA front. We probably can move on to the next item.
Yeah, thanks. I was just curious about that because that's really important, because once those are rolled out, that work of maintaining that will no longer be a one-person job each. It'll be something that, you know, the wider group of folks can help to maintain, because it's got those unified standards. So that's very exciting. Okay. Yeah. So I guess you already mentioned the libgit 2. Right, or do you want to get into more detail about that, Paulo?
I definitely would be keen to talk a bit more about that one.
Okay, I'm going to move mine down.
Yeah, it's actually quite a quick one, so I'll just go for it then. Yeah, so basically there is this, am I still sharing my screen? Oh, great, okay. Let me just open my issue then, now that I'm still sharing my screen. Okay, so basically there is this issue in which some folks are just getting the image automation controller to crash. And after debugging a lot, we figured out that the problem, what was happening was we were getting a segmentation fault, which was pretty much just killing the pod. We've been working on this for quite some time because it's really hard to reproduce. And we only managed to get to the bottom of it because we had access to one cluster that actually was experiencing this. And we tried quite a few different approaches, and the only thing so far that fixed it was to disable multi-threading for the libgit2. So when we compile libgit2, we do that without thread support, which is a problem normally, especially when we're using unmanaged transport, because again, like all the managing of the TCP connections and all like that, is asynchronous. So, we shouldn't disable that then. But given that we're using managed transport and all that part is happening at Go, most probably these would be okay. So we're still testing and making sure that nothing else broke. So far, everything is looking positive. The only issue is we have full control of, however we build and compile libgit2, but we don't really have much control on git2go, which basically blocks the use of libgit2 when threading is disabled. So for the time being, for this RC, we have a fork in which we remove that validation on the init. I tried to create a PR on git2go, and the initial feedback from them is that they're not really keen on accepting that because other people really need those constraints. So yeah, we either would have to fork that project for this, or to continue back to the whiteboard and try to find another way around it. Yeah, the only thing is it's kind of rare. It's happening in some instances. So we could have, RC released every so often to keep these folks happy in the meantime, but ideally we would actually fix the problem. I just wanted to kind of make sure that everyone understands what's going on, and that's why I brought up. But yeah, that's where we are with this issue.
Could we suggest the Git2go maintainers? I was thinking, so basically the whole point is that it's fine for us, but it's not fine for other people. So probably we can suggest to a global variable or an environment variable or something, which could be something which which you could set to turn this off, turn the check off.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm not sure if environment variables are accessible at init. They might be, but yeah, that could be actually an easy way around this.
A global variable could help, a private global variable which is exposed through a public method. So we could just, so by default it would be it would enable the condition check, but you could potentially disable it so that people like us who want to disable the panic condition can do so.
That's a good
Wait,
shout.
how is it checked at present? And what's the reason they don't want to? I think you made a suggestion for a change, right, Paolo?
Yeah, I asked them for suggestions on how to counter this or how to fix the initial problem.
But the problem that happens is that it checks if the library is built with certain support, and then it does it, then it isn't, and then it just plain out errors.
Exactly.
Yeah, pretty much. It panics, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think the reason probably is that if you're making use of shared libraries, and you're just as an utility making use of like the SO files that can be found on the user system already, there is a small chance that the user already has the lib, but without multi-threading enabled. And then if you write your application in such a way that you assume that multi-threading always is enabled to your lib dependency, then your application suddenly becomes unsafe because the user system is using another set of libs.
Yeah, but I think the biggest problem is like, given that that validation happens at the niche level, like we would have no control over this at all. Or you mean?
No, I think the reason they put the line of code in there and that it's such a hard block
that's
is
fine.
because
That's fine. I mean, they were smart to put it. It's just that it doesn't work for us.
Yeah,
they were completely right to put it.
Yeah,
but
at the time there was no smart. Sorry.
The defense seems to be that the hard block is there due to what I'm describing. So if you still want to contribute something back upstream, then you need to figure out how you can work around that problem. And I personally don't really see a way, other than providing some variables so that you can indeed signal to libgit2 that it can ignore the fact that it's not enabled because your application doesn't care about it.
Yeah, what I will do is I'll check the environment variable if it would be loaded at that time, which probably should. And if that works, I'll just submit a PR, update the PR and see what they come back with. If they don't like that approach, we might need to kind of, look into this a bit further. The problem
it's a single line patch theoretically for us, right? If we really don't care about it, it's just something that removes 1 line or 3 lines of code.
Yeah.
In a file that probably is very high level, so from the entry point, so probably very static in terms of changes. Then I would say that probably automating something that basically takes the last version and then attempts to apply a patch, or attempts to apply a 3-way merge patch on top of that, and then kind of automatically creates new git state out of that would probably be the best way if you want to go for like long-term forking. So basically just a list of patches which we want to apply on top of libgit2 every time there is a new release, and then it either works automatically or you have to resolve the merge conflict so that it works again next time.
Yeah, that's a good shout as well. Brilliant. Yeah. So I'll look into those 2 things and then carry on. There is some concern. So initially, this whole thing came from a guy that works at Google, and he had some concerns, especially based on the way the CGO kind of interacts with CNO. So I want you to have a look at that as well, just to make sure there's no oversight in which, in our situation, would be a problem to have the threading disabled. But so far, I have no issues at all. Like I'm running loads of Git repos in parallel with like really small intervals. So I would assume they would kind of be running concurrently every now and again. And so far I had no issues at all. But what I'm trying
have you tried changing the number of workers to like 2? So that there's a higher chance of, that's the only kind of parallelity setting we have, right? So if you lower that number so that's still in parallel, then things should trigger quicker.
Yeah, I have about 30 repositories. So I would assume that they would be constantly kind of going at it given the intervals. But yeah, I would try that as well. Because again,
with the new changes, we don't do full clones anymore. So I think that due to the efficiency, there might be a much smaller chance that we have long-running things which kind of keep processes busy.
That's another good shout. I will disable the optimized clone process as well. That's a really good shout. Yeah, cool. I will look into that. Cool. Anyone else? Any more comments on that issue or on things or concerns? Cool. So I think
okay. So I guess it's the next item, right? So I have two. Oh, actually, I think Kingdon has the next item. I have two that I keep bumping down because I think I'm just going to save them for next week, to be honest. But yeah, so Kingdon, I think it's all you.
Yes, I need a minute to find the actual details of this. The CNCF live stream that's coming up on next Wednesday. I wanted to promote it because we're going to be showing Flux things, including the VS Code extension and projects built on Flux, like Weave GitOps core. Everything will be open source. It's a live coding format for 1 hour. And the details will be in the meeting notes for anyone who is interested to check it out.
Cool. Yeah, so I think we can go to the next item then. Is Sunny about the new repo for this infra?
Right. So as we discussed, we have some Kubernetes Terraform modules that we would be reusing across different repositories for testing all the end-to-end tests in cloud providers. So we need a place to keep all those Terraform modules. So maybe we need something like a test infra repository to keep all these, which is similar to upstream Kubernetes test infra. Is there any process? Do I need to create a full issue or something? Or do you just create the repository?
Well, the last time that I needed to create a repository, I just asked, I think I asked Stefan for that, but I don't know if there's another.
I can create them. No, it's more that we just have a mutual agreement that there needs to be an additional repository, but other than that, there is no real official process.
But overall, I think we kind of briefly discussed this, but I definitely think it would be great to have that kind of thing on a specific repo and all, and we just amass everything into, a place that we can reuse across this space. So yeah, I think that's a really nice shout.
I think we also have GitHub Actions in Flux 2 repository. Even those can be moved here just for testing. How such tooling can be moved.
Oh, you mean about like, you said GitHub Actions, right? Yeah, that's a good shout, because then we just update some other place. Yeah, really nice.
Yeah, I would like that, because that would the current placing of them in the package library was more because we had no other central place to put them, I think. Well, they have very little to do with all the Go things that are in package. So I would really like them to move out from package into something that's more, well, CI scope.
Yeah, I wonder if there is need for something that is generic, that goes beyond test, though. Like, for example, that is just infra related. Because
you can always rename it. Or although the problem with the actions is that they are kind of published and made available to users. So we can't really YOLO around with naming like we can with most developer tools. So that's one thing we need to keep in mind. Also with migrations, I'm not sure how it works if you move GitHub Action from repository A to repository B. I assume the repository A then just becomes a dead path and no longer receives updates, given it all works based on tags, if I recall correctly. But that means that there would be a lot of communication towards users about the change. So that might be good to discuss with Stefan once, well, either after this meeting or next meeting. But creating the repository is not an issue. And also, like, not being precise on the name at this point is also not an issue, because if we don't agree on it, then we can always change it later on.
That's it. I have posted some links about some sample modules and how they are being used in Image Reflector end-to-end test. So those modules will move to the new repository. That's it.
Cool. I think the last two items are for Scott. Are you there, Scott?
I think they are. Yeah. Okay. I wasn't sure if we were going to have time for them. But well, I was already. Yeah, I was going to see what kind of update we had for customized OCI. I know that work's really underway, and from the last meeting, Stefan said we're something like 99% finished with the implementation that the RFC outlined.
The current timeline is that it will be released somewhere. I don't recall exactly, but I think beginning of August or mid-August. The whole batch, including like the CLI functionalities, etc. Reason being that Stefan is off next week, I'm still focused on the Helm control and other efforts, and we simply don't have the bandwidth to deal with, I don't know, bug fixes that needs addressing, etc. post-release.
Yeah. Okay, cool. That's great. I was also thinking, this isn't specifically related to Flux, but I was thinking that it might be good to get some additional artifact hub support for different kinds of packages. For example, customized packages that are packaged up. I know there's already OCI support, but that's mainly, I think, for containers generally, not so much for artifacts. And it might be nice to do that because then we could actually, I don't know, just maybe socialize it a bit more within the community, and have more discoverability that way. It's only related because I think its existence in Flux would justify adding it to Artifact Hub. That's all. Also, it's just exciting. Okay, thanks. And then the other one was, I was just going to mention that I had met with a few folks, including Hida and, well, actually only Hida and Max, to try to get a wish list for the Helm SDK. Reason being that we're very heavy users of the Helm SDK, and other folks in the Helm team recognize that too, as evidenced by wanting to reach out to us for some of the shared fuzzer issues, because we're one of the fullest implementations of the SDK right now, and I know that's only going to increase through this Helm rewrite. So if folks are going through, I know Hida, you're in the midst of this, but if anyone else is working on any other issues that relate to the SDK, it will likely change based on the work that Hida's doing, some of it, because there's a whole rewrite there, but please just bubble that up to me and we can talk about it as a team, because this is not a Helm call, it's Flux call, but Flux is one of a big SDK user for a big Helm SDK user, so we are an end user too, in a sense, at least for that type of user. So any pain points or anything that folks have, just please let me know. Yeah.
Your document is on my pile of things I need to take care of. I think I will go over it at the beginning of next week to kind of add details to some of the point, to some of the notes you took. And Sunny might have some input maybe, but Sunny, feel free to just send Scott a message if that's the case.
Okay, and
Yeah.
Is this the best number to text?
Thanks, Hida. That sounds great. And yeah, Sunny, if you would like to, I would love to love to set up a one-on-one chat with you. And what I've been doing is just, like what Hida did was Hida just kind of like said, all right, here's all my thoughts. And I was just like, all right, let me speed type them 1,000 miles a minute and put them in some sort of an order. And we can edit that as we go. And the idea is that there are two real goals. One is what can we improve for Helm v3 now? Things that will actually could impact us in positive ways, things that we might be able to scrape a lot of unnecessary logic potentially, or like soon to be unnecessary logic perhaps out of our implementation or our consumption of the Helm SDK. And then the other is, hey, as we're going, we might have some other future ideas that would be breaking changes for V3 potentially, and those could be part of the roadmap for V4, for Helm V4. So if you want to, that'd be great. And that's all I really had. Okay, great. I'll reach out to you.
I'll let you know. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Does anyone else have any topics that you want to cover? We definitely don't have to fill the time. But I'm hearing a no. So so I'm gonna say we've got some time back, and it was great to see you all.
See you later. Bye.
Everyone.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.